Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I have learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. And I have several books with me today. I tried to kind of mix and match them today. I have a Melody Beatty book. I have Seeking Sobriety, Find Serenity. I have Meditations for Living in Balance. And I also have A Time to Be Free, Daily Meditations for Enhancing Self-Esteem. So I'm going to read from one of those today. But I also wanted to mention that September is National Recovery Month. And so I think it's important, that I acknowledge that, and as well as acknowledge all of the people out there that are still suffering from addiction. And, there's not a day that goes by that I don't wake up and feel just eternally blessed that I was given the gift of recovery. And it is absolutely a gift. There are so many people out there that will never be introduced to recovery, that for those of us that work 12-step programs, will never be introduced to a 12-step program. I look back on my sobriety and me not wanting to do it and the many failed attempts that I had at getting sober. And, I have friends of mine that have gotten 25 and 30 start-over tokens and have attempted for 5, 10, 15 years to get sober, and finally it stuck. So don't ever give up, and don't ever give up on your family members or your friends that are struggling with addiction, because one day they too may be sober and live an amazing life, and I feel so blessed today. When I get up in the morning and I say my prayers and my meditations in the morning, I always, the first two things I'm grateful for is my life and my sobriety. Because obviously, if I didn't have my life, I wouldn't be here. But for my sobriety, if I didn't have my sobriety, I wouldn't have anything else that I have in my life. I wouldn't have my marriage. I wouldn't have relationships in my life. I wouldn't have my home or YouTube, which is the thing that I love to do, or my relationships with my friends, and on and on and on. And so for me, I was taught at an early age in sobriety that sobriety and recovery should always be the number one priority, because without it, we can't have anything else in our lives, And so I just wanted to acknowledge that September is National Recovery Month, and, don't ever give up hope on those out there that still may get sober one of these days. You don't know, And I know I had kind of given up hope on my mom. My mom got sober at 51, which at the time that my mom got sober was older, there weren't a lot of people getting sober at 51. Today, I have so many dear friends of mine that are getting sober in their 60s and in their 70s, and it's just fantastic. And so it's never too late to get sober. So just always remember that, and never give up hope on anybody, Never give up hope that they too might get sober one day. All right, so speaking of sobriety, I think I'm going to read, I have no idea what this is going to say, but I think I'm going to read from Seek Sobriety, Find Serenity, Thoughts for Every Day by Rabbi Abraham J. Tversky. So let me read from this. There was one book that I wanted to read from that was about fear today, but I think I left it in the bathroom, so maybe I'll read from that tomorrow. I was going through and reading different meditation books this morning. All right, September 28th. My mom has this one all you can see, she has it all highlighted and notes written on it, and this one is about overindulgence. She underlined in here, one drive in the human being that does not have an end point, the drive for spiritual growth. That's interesting that she wrote that in there. Okay, September 28th. Make peace with your, August 28th. Let's see, September, I can't get to the right page. September, oh my gosh, this is so strange. So this was my mom's book. This was my mom's book that her sponsor had given her, and I also have a copy of this in the basement as well. But my mom has this one, I don't know if you can see it on here with the lines, but she has it underlined, and she also has an asterisk on it. So this will be interesting. Okay, September 28th, self-reproach can be deceptive. Self-reproach is not always a virtue. Criticizing ourselves for wrongful behavior can be constructive if it results in our avoiding its repetition. But sometimes we criticize ourselves for less than sincere reasons. For instance, we may jump the gun and chastise ourselves before someone else has the opportunity to do so. This is self-protection, not self-correction. Recovery frowns on the pity party. This is not necessarily feeling sorry for ourselves for adversaries, but rather a self-flagellation by which we elicit sympathy and ward off criticism from others. As children, we may have learned to anticipate a scolding and volunteer, I've been bad today. Our parents would then say, there, it's not all that terrible. As adults, we repeat this juvenile behavior. The fifth step requires a sincere admission. A trained fifth step listener can alert us if we are deceiving ourselves with self-reproach. I think that's such a interesting comment, I think or meditation. I think in relation to my weight, I have done that for a very long time. It's like, let me tell you all the wrong things about me before you have a chance to, and but when I make those comments, and I really try to stay away from those comments, the self-deprecating comments. I'm not somebody that loves self-deprecating comments when people, I don't think they're funny, and it makes me kind of sad. And probably because when others make self-deprecating comments, it's a mirror to myself of when I have done that in my past, when I've put myself down and said things like, oh, well, I'm lazy, or I'm this, or I'm that, many of those things which are just not true. But if I say them, and then it gives the other person the opportunity to say it first, I've been blessed to have people that are very important to me say, why would you say those things about yourself? So I try not to do that today. In fact, I'm a believer that we must be our own cheerleaders. We must lift ourselves up the most. We must push ourselves the most, because if not us, who else? And I don't know if you've ever had somebody in your life that's just really negative and really down and constantly just everything about their life is negative, and and it's like at some point it's kind of like, you believe that your life is that negative. Why would I not believe it? You know what I mean? And why would I want to be around it as well? And so I have tried to change that over time and be more positive and be more uplifting to myself, and be like, hey, I got a lot done today, or I have been really working hard on this, or I am very successful, or I'm not lazy at all. I do get a lot done, because those things are true, and I think it's about affirming the positive about ourselves. Ask yourself, how many times have you put yourself down, and that's part of that tape that runs in our head that we have to get rid of. We have to let go of that tape in our head that tells us that we're the worst person in the room, because we just aren't. There's no truth to that. One of the things that my sponsor says to me on a regular basis is get out of the lie. Well, the lie many times is telling ourselves that we're not good people, or that we're lazy, or we're this, or we're that, the pity party. And then I think often too, in the past, when I would make those comments, it's because I wanted somebody to say, well, that's not true, or there's no truth to that. I wanted other people to tell me that. And often when they wouldn't say anything at all, I'd be like, okay, well, what does that mean? Maybe I need to take a look at that. I don't know that I want to. Today, I do take a look at that stuff, and it's like, I don't know, I try not to put myself down, and I try not to stay in the negative. I try to stay in the positive and surround myself with positive people, positive things, whatever. I've been spending the last 24 hours getting really excited about making my front porch really nice for fall, and those are things that make me happy today. I try to spend my time doing things that make me happy and with people that make me happy, and I try not to put myself down. I try to lift myself up and all of that kind of stuff. So anyway, I suggest you do the same too. Try it. If you're somebody that lives in self-pity and constantly is putting yourself down, whether in your head or out loud, try it for just a couple days or a week and see if it doesn't completely alter the way that you look at the world. So great meditation. Speaking of that, since we're talking about self-esteem, a friend of mine that I used to work with back in the day, she said, or she would say that she didn't like the word self-esteem. She liked the word self-concept. And I kind of like that as well, too. So I typically use the word self-concept instead of self-esteem. All right, I turned right to it. September 28th. The other night I heard someone go on and on about how she couldn't stand to be around her father. And I could really relate to that, my friend said to me. For most of my life, I had that same kind of feeling. I hated both of my parents with a passion. When they died, I thought I would feel differently, she continued. But even after a year, I still had tremendous anger and bitterness towards them. Only it was worse, because I also felt guilty. By then, all the turmoil inside of me was spilling over into every part of my life. I had to get rid of those unresolved feelings. I knew I did. One of the things that helped me most was to forgive my parents, even though they were dead. When someone first made that suggestion, it seemed really pointless, she added, but I did it anyway. Soon I began to feel better inside, and I actually started thinking good things about my mother and father instead of all of that usual garbage. That's when I understood why I needed to forgive them. I had to do it for one reason alone, for my sake, for my sanity and peace of mind. Thought for today. Remember the healing power of forgiveness. Wow, interesting meditation, the timing of it. I was talking to a dear friend of mine yesterday, and she was talking a lot about family stuff, and halfway through the conversation, she said, but there's so many good things that I want to tell you too that happened. And so she started telling me all these good things that had happened with her recent visit with her family. And it was so interesting that she kind of turned in the middle of the conversation. And I was like, okay, I need to remember to do that. It's so easy to complain and be negative, about our observations about people, but to turn it and say, but this is what's really positive about it. Let me tell you what's really positive about it. I think is really interesting, and I think an important thing to remember as well. I talk a lot on here about forgiveness. I talk a lot on here about forgiveness and the importance of forgiveness, and that, Oprah, I love her definition of forgiveness that she learned in one of her aha moments, which is that forgiveness is accepting that what happened in the past happened, not that what happened was okay. Okay, it's not excusing it away. It's saying that what happened, and now what am I going to do about it so that I'm not held hostage to that event of the past? And I really, really like that definition of forgiveness, because then it brings it back to forgiveness is for us, not for that other person. And it really ultimately is, And forgiveness is not forgetting what happened. It's moving on, it's not moving on, I don't like that saying, moving through the pain, and letting go of that anchor from that person or that relationship that ties you down, and I think it's important to do that, and just, it's kind of the Wizard of Oz, be gone before somebody drops the house on you, and this person has no power on you anymore. It's when you finally release that, it's you can be free, and in recovery, we talk about that, not just with people, but with anger and resentment and bitterness and misery and resentment of, the past and how we thought things should have turned out and the way that they did. And, I see so many people that get stuck in that and just stuck in that, well, I wish it would be this way, or I wish it was that way, or whatever. And it's well, it isn't, and they weren't, and they aren't, and they won't ever be. So it's at some point you have to let go of that and say, I forgive that person, and now I'm going to move through it to the other side. And I'm going to allow myself to have this amazing life that I deserve, because we all do, and you do. And I think it's letting go of that, and also, I've been saying this recently in my vlog. It's my sponsor talked to me about the prayer for the sick man, which is, when somebody is in their own, negative state of mind, praying for them because they don't know any better, and it's that as well that has really, really helped me to let go of some of that in my life. So, fantastic meditations. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.